Welcome to Lesson 10, Getting Smart in Photoshop. In this little video snippet, you're going to find out how you can take advantage of smart objects or smart layers. And I'm going to show you some things that you can find within the lesson if you're reading along in the book, but also a couple little extra things that might be of interest to you. So first of all, I am in Bridge, and I'm opening up PS 1001, and you'll notice that in this particular image, we've got some text and we also have this butterfly layer. Now I'm going to pull this out so you can see this. But typically if you were working in Photoshop, you would drop an image in and you might have to enlarge it a little bit. And that's okay, by about 20%. But if you needed to double it in size or triple it in size or make it small and then large again, then you had an issue. And here's the issue that you might have. I'm pressing Control-T. If you're on the Mac, you can press Command-T, and that's the keyboard command for free transform. I'm holding down my Shift key and grabbing a corner and making this really small because I've decided that I want this butterfly really small. Now, I can either press the Return key or click on the Commit button up here in the options bar, but I've got this butterfly, and then later I decide, I think I want the butterfly a little bit bigger. So I do Control or Command-T, and I make it bigger. And what have I done? Well, when I scaled that butterfly down, I pretty much eliminated the information that I might need now when I'm rescaling the image up in size. So something to consider. And to avoid this, you can take advantage of smart objects. And they can be used for filters, for resizing images. I typically use smart objects as I'm designing just because I don't have a clue how big or small my various layers are going to be until I am done. One thing to consider, I'm going to just throw that guy away. He's really no good to me right now. One thing to consider is, let me open this up, is that if you are taking advantage of smart objects, and I am going to view 2 up, that you really can't make an object bigger than it originally was without some degradation. So I'm taking this butterfly, and if you noticed, I went into the Arrange Windows to 2 up. I'm on my Move tool, and I'm dragging and dropping this butterfly over here, and then closing this other file. But this particular image, I can't really make it twice the size that I just brought it in, but at least I can keep the original data. Now, I've taken this in. I know I'm going to resize later, so what can I do? A couple things. One is I can right-click on this and say Convert to Smart Object, and this great little icon appears indicating that this is now a smart object. Now, if I press Control or Command-T now, and I make this really, really, really small, I'm holding down the Shift key. Tiny, tiny. Okay, look at the little butterfly. It's more like a gnat. Now, I do Control or Command-T again, and I bring it up in size. Now, first of all, what I love is the fact that when I come up here to the options bar and I look at this, it's showing me that it is still 21% of that original size. So as I scale it, I have a really good idea of what size this original object was, so that if I go over 100%, I can kind of stay at least close or within the 120 mark without degrading that too much. But notice that all the information is there. It is actually embedded, this image, inside of this Photoshop file, which, yes, does make a larger file, but you don't have to keep it that way forever. You can keep this file embedded. You can keep it a smart object until you're done designing. If you've got a lot of hard drive space, keep it that way as a backup. If you don't, you can always convert it back by rasterizing the image. So let's say that I'm done with this particular project, and I decide this is the size I want it, and I don't want it embedded anymore. Of course, I can right-click, and I can choose Rasterize a Layer, and now it's no longer a smart object. Now, I'm going to undo that because I want to do a couple other things here. I might want to add another layer. Now, I believe there are some in here, so I'll take the toucan, for example. And here he is. Whoops. Hold down my Control key and select him. And I want to apply a filter to him, but I want to be really painterly with this filter. So let me take this, and I've got him selected. I can also convert. This does the exact same thing. Filter, convert for smart filters. Fine. You'll see the same icon appears. But now when I apply a filter, like for instance, I'll just do something totally unrelated to the lesson, but just so you can see, Gaussian blur, and I'll really blur this. Now the benefit to working with smart objects, again with filters, is that I can turn off or on that filter, but I've also gained a mask. And if I click on here, you'll see the 4 handles appear. If I take my paintbrush, and I'm going to make it a little bit larger here, you can see I'm pressing the right bracket to the right of the letter P. If I paint with black, wherever I paint, you'll see a little black smudge appear on that mask. It is not applying that filter. So you can do all sorts of things. Perhaps I'll take the gradient, drag it across so that it fades into that blur. I can even come in here and choose that perhaps I want to apply another filter. I'll just come in here and stylize and solarize it just for something funky so that you can see additional items that are being done to this. Now, unfortunately, let me go back to this. I'm going to Control Z that. I did that on purpose to show you that if you still have the smart object layer or thumbnail mask filter effects here, select it and you run a filter, it'll run it on your mask. I didn't really do that intentionally, but it was a good example to show you. Let me click back on Doucan. Boop. See that? This is now selected. Now I will choose Filter, Stylize, Solarize. Okay, and so now you'll see it's been added to this list. So I can add additional filters to this list and turn them off or on as needed. Now, I only get one mask for each of these. What if I also want to apply another filter, but I want a different mask for that? Well, I can take advantage of this neat little feature. I can take this layer and I can convert it to another smart object. Now, I don't know about you, but that's pretty funky. And now I can come in here and apply another filter, and I'll explain what's happening in a little bit. Maybe I want to do, I'll take this and we'll do a motion blur. We'll make it look like he's spinning a little bit here. Okay. And then maybe on this filter, I want the gradient going, select it this way. Okay, so what's happened here is this. I actually have an embedded file in an embedded file. If I double click on this, I can open up the original image, and you'll see there's my original. Okay, here are my original filters that I ran, and I can even double click on this and open up the original Doucan. So lots of ways that you can play with this. It's almost mind-boggling, but you can have a lot of fun with this, and yet when I come back to all of these images, even though it may look like this in the final result, the benefit is that original Doucan has been saved. So experiment with smart objects, do lots of things with them. If you're taking up a lot of file space, don't worry, just rasterize those layers when you're done and you'll be all set.